Coming up tonight on VCU InSight, the blackface scandal hits close to home. VCU yearbook pictures reveal a dark past.
The legal age to buy tobacco is going up, but will the change discourage teen smoking?
And schools are now required to allow prescribed cannabis-based CBD oil. All this and more.
VCU InSight starts right now.
From the Richard T. Robertson School of Media and Culture at Virginia Commonwealth University, named Best Student Newscast in the Mid-Atlantic, this is VCU InSight.
Good evening, and welcome to VCU InSight. I'm Jacob Sexton.
And I'm Erica Huckabee. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been several weeks since we first heard about the series of scandals that rocked Virginia's executive branch. InSight's Sarah Daniel has an update on what is currently happening at the Capitol. Sarah?
Erica, early February saw multiple allegations against Virginia's governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. Though plenty of political leaders have called for them to resign, as of now, they all remain in office. The scandal erupted when yearbook photos surfaced showing Governor Ralph Northam allegedly wearing blackface. Not long after, Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax faced 2 allegations of sexual assault. Then, Attorney General Mark Herring admitted to wearing blackface in college. Amid protests and calls for their resignation, Northam and Herring have not stepped down, but have promised to regain the public's trust. Virginia Republicans have called for a hearing for the lieutenant governor's 2 accusers, but they have not set a date. Fairfax says that he has truth on his side and is willing to testify. But Erica, a poll by Roanoke College found that fewer than half of Virginians believe that Northam, Fairfax, or Herring should resign.
Sarah Daniel reporting from our newsroom. Thank you, Sarah.
The news state that some state leaders once wore blackface has led to more discoveries about Virginia's past and discussions about how to move forward. Here's InSight's Nia Tariq.
Weeks after the governor and the attorney general admitted to having worn blackface, VCU students discovered that many alumni have done the same, and it all came to light in the same way: school yearbooks. VCU students and faculty are speaking out after the discovery of blackface and other racist images from the school's past.
The people that were in those images are more than likely alive. They more than likely have medical careers. They more than likely have, children.
While some argue that blackface was only offensive during the Jim Crow era, the most recent image in the VCU archives is from 1989. The use of blackface, as demonstrated here, became common in the 19th century to not only humiliate black people, but to also keep talented actors of color out of the entertainment industry. The practice became known as minstrelsy and is seen as offensive and racist, even when being used as a costume in the present day.
This is so pervasive. Racism is so built in to our culture and society, especially in a state like Virginia.
The Robertson School of Media and Culture at VCU organized a panel to discuss the recent string of scandals related to racism in Virginia. The conversation included VCU's past and what to do about Virginia's politicians who have come under fire.
It's important for us to have leaders who are culturally competent and who recognize the past and make strides to change the past, which I don't think many of our political leaders do.
Despite calls for their resignations, Governor Northam and other Virginia politicians who have admitted to using blackface in the past remain in office. VCU President Michael Rao released a statement saying bigotry and racism have no place in our Commonwealth or in our society, and that VCU will continue to acknowledge the dignity and integrity of all people. For VCU InSight, I'm Nia Tariq.
The VCU Police Department is expanding its jurisdiction into downtown Richmond. InSight's Talia Fagard joins us from police headquarters on campus. Talia, how large of an area are we talking about?
Erica, about 2 square miles. VCU police now have a much bigger jurisdiction in the downtown Richmond area. Take a look at this map. The red area is where VCU PD already has jurisdiction. The blue is the expanded area that the department can now serve. VCU PD has what we call concurrent jurisdiction in the city's downtown area. This means that they have the same authority as Richmond PD does on and around campus. The city council and the circuit court had to approve the expansion. Dozens of citizens spoke out against the proposal, but the city council approved the expansion back in January. The circuit court approved it last month. Now, VCU PD has about 99 sworn officers, but as of now, there's no plans to expand that number. Reporting from Monroe Park, I'm Talia Fagard.
You may be seeing a smaller electric bill next month. Customers of Dominion Energy will be seeing lower rates starting April 1st. The change comes after a ruling by the State Corporation Commission. The commission is trying to make sure customers receive benefits from the federal corporate tax cuts. Customers will also receive a one-time credit for the months prior to the rate adjustment.
Mayor Stoney is proposing a 9-cent property tax increase. He says the money will go towards public education and repairs for city streets. The Richmond Times-Dispatch reports that the city has the highest real estate tax in the region, currently at $1.20 for every $100 of assessed value. The increase is part of Mayor's proposed budget. It has to go through City Council, and so far, only one member is supporting the increase. Virginia has officially banned the sale of tobacco and nicotine products to people under the age of 21. I spoke with some Richmond residents to see how they felt about this new law.
To be quite honest, I'm not fond of it.
VCU freshman Nia Williams does not smoke, but she does regularly buy wraps from the gas station. Soon, she won't be able to.
People are going to find different ways. It's not going to stop what's happening. It's just going to make it harder and more difficult and unnecessarily difficult, to be quite honest.
Health educator and substance abuse counselor Kat Corin says that increasing the tobacco purchasing age will have a positive impact.
Our brains aren't fully developed until about age 25, so most of the campus community is going to be under that age limit. So that can only kind of bring benefits in terms of the cognitive effects that nicotine can have.
With teen vaping on the rise, Corin says that portability and accessibility of nicotine makes it easier for young adults to become addicted.
If you are using any substance, don't use it every day. Take breaks from it. Use other coping strategies that can help you relax or focus your attention.
Now, it's important to note that this new law does not apply to active duty personnel, and although cigarette use is at an all-time low amongst teens, according to the CDC, teen vaping has doubled since last year. In fact, the National Institute of Health states that 37% of high school seniors reported vaping in 2018. That's up from 28% in 2017. Corin says she's glad to see lawmakers respond to this trend.
I think that a lot of times the policy doesn't necessarily line up with the health research, so it's sort of moving in that direction, it seems like.
6 other states have limits on selling tobacco products for those under 21. On July 1st, Virginia will become number 7.
The legislation passed with bipartisan support. Keep in mind that under federal law, the tobacco purchasing age is still 18.
Lawmakers have also given a green light to a program aimed at reducing evictions in the Commonwealth. The program will focus on renters who aren't chronically late paying rent. It will only help them by offering a payment plan. Last year, a report from Princeton showed that Richmond has the second highest eviction rates in the country.
Right now, Virginia prisons are not required to report how many inmates are put in solitary confinement. As InSight's Nia Tariq reports, that may soon change.
The General Assembly has passed a bill that will require the Department of Corrections to create an annual report on its use of solitary confinement. Data collected would include how many people are in solitary confinement, their mental health status, why they were placed there, and for how long. The DOC says the report will cost $2 million a year because the records are currently only kept on paper. Groups like the ACLU support the measure, but also say it doesn't go far enough to keeping tabs on how the state is using solitary confinement. For VCU InSight, I'm Nia Tariq.
More news from the Capitol. The General Assembly passed 4 bills regulating the use of CBD and THC oil. InSight's Elise Kim talked to experts about the growing popularity of these oils and how they might help students.
Serena Fisher says she started using CBD oil to help her relax.
I am a big marijuana supporter, and so I have always been curious about CBD oil.
But CBD doesn't cause the high, even though it comes from the cannabis plant. Dr. Louis Duchin explains another compound in cannabis, THC, is what causes intoxication.
If they smoke marijuana because it helps them sleep or it helps anxiety, it's actually the CBD oil that does the heavy lifting in that.
Students could bring these, but not this to school, but Senate Bill 1632 passed, no longer requiring school boards to expel or suspend students that hold a valid certification for CBD oil.
Students with anxiety could also be prescribed Xanax, Valium, or other drugs. But Dr. Duchin says CBD may be a safer option.
You know, you want to go to class, you want to learn, you want to study, you want to remember what the professor says. You have a better chance of doing that with CBD, I think.
One group is happy about the new rules for CBD oil in schools. Normal, a nonprofit focused on cannabis reform.
So now that these patients have been able to safely use their medicine in the state of Virginia, they're thriving and they're able to go back to school.
Students like Fisher say it does make a difference.
As someone who takes prescription medications, like I'm prescribed Adderall, I think it helps with like some of the side effects.
For VCU InSight, I'm Elise Kim.
The bill allowing CBD oil on public school property passed with overwhelming support. Now it only needs Governor Northam's signature to become law.
Coming up after the break, a farmer's market that travels in a school bus. VCU InSight will be right back.
We've never been very good at sitting still. Maybe that's why we built our campus in the middle of a city. Why we put our classrooms on riverbanks, in Fortune 500 companies, even on stage. At Virginia Commonwealth University, learning happens everywhere. What matters most is how you make it real.
VCU and the GRTC partner up this year to provide free bus passes for students and staff. Now, facing $1 million budget shortage, GRTC is thinking about charging the university more to continue the deal. InSight's Kaylin Stevens is in our newsroom. Kaylin, what's going on with these negotiations?
Jacob, the deadline for the city to renew its contract with VCU is in April. Right now, the question is how much the university will have to pay for students and staff to ride GRTC for free. GRTC introduced its Go Passes for all students and employees at VCU last August. The initial one-year deal cost the university $1.2 million. Staff and students accounted for more than 77,000 rides on GRTC last month. In January, 12% of the riders on the pulse were from the university. VCU has been encouraging students to use GRTC to shuttle between the Monroe Park and MCV campus. GRTC board members said they'll need more VCU rider data to work with before they can figure out a deal. This data is coming from the newly released Go Passes given to students and staff.
Kaylin Stevens reporting from our newsroom. Thanks, Kaylin.
Several initiatives in Richmond are working to improve safety for pedestrians and cyclists on city streets. InSight's Kelsey Jones looked into how drivers and pedestrians can safely share the road.
Every day, Madison Mansky rides her bike through the Richmond streets.
I had a bike when I was a freshman, but when I was a freshman, I was too scared to ride it.
Mansky overcame her fear once she found other bike riders on campus. And as the number of pedestrians and bikers go up in RVA, the number of accidents increases as well.
This year, there have been 22 accidents involving pedestrians. Officials want to remind you that this is the proper way to cross the street. Push the crosswalk button, look both ways, and then cross the street.
Car versus pedestrian, car is always going to win. Person is always going to be injured, typically.
Richmond Police Sergeant Jonathan Nathanson says it's a two-way street.
You have drivers in the city which need to slow down and pay attention to people crossing at crosswalks. And at the same time, you also have the pedestrians that even though the law of the land says, yes, they do have the right of way, they can't enter traffic with no disregard.
Anton Martin never thought he would be struck by a car biking on his way to class.
We're gonna go right on red, and they just didn't look for me, so they were just paying attention to the one way that was main. So they didn't look to the right, and then I was in the intersection, obviously they hit me.
Thankfully, he had only minor injuries. Martin was one of the 127 pedestrian-involved accidents in Richmond last year.
A split second could ruin someone's life if if it was a lot more serious than whatever happened to me.
For extra precaution, pedestrians should remember to not wear dark clothing and put reflective materials on your bikes. And of course,
just be cautious.
For VCU's InSight, I'm Kelsey Jones.
That is a very important message. In 2017, 11 pedestrians died after being hit by vehicles in Richmond.
A new study shows your water bottle may carry more bacteria than a toilet seat. The study from Treadmill Reviews found that the average athlete's water bottle had over 300,000 bacteria colonies. To put that in perspective, the average pet toy has just shy of 3,000. The type of bottle makes a difference. Slide top bottles were the worst offenders. Keep that in mind, these results come from athletes' bottles that have not been washed for a week. Experts say you should wash a bottle at least once a day.
You may be paying more at the pump these days. Gas prices have edged up since the start of the year. 2019 kicked off with prices under $2 a gallon. That average went up in February and again this month. We're now hovering between $2.20 and $2.30 per gallon. Of course, Richmond gas prices are still consistently below the national average.
Spring is around the corner and rolling in with it, a way to support your local farmers. InSight's Brianna Ray Turner has the story of a mobile farmers market.
What I'm about to show you isn't an average school bus. Instead, it's a farmers market bringing locally grown foods to families in urban areas.
When you walk in, you're kind of blown away.
You've got your veggies, nuts, and even homemade hot sauce.
Grits, waffle mix, scone mix.
It's all on board the farm bus.
There are not as many small farms around as there used to be, and so I just wanted to come up with an idea to help support small local farms.
Mark Lilly has been driving this bus for 10 years now.
Food is very important. I mean, I think we've kind of lost that attachment to our food as Americans. You know, you go to other countries, they're very attached to their food.
The food comes from local farmers like Linda Bruce, who grows lettuce in her backyard.
If you buy local, you are helping local farmers, which is a help to your local economy. And it's really kind of nice to be able to work within your local area.
The farm bus delivers locally grown food to families in Richmond and DC.
For the 10th anniversary of Farm Bus, they are making pre-made meals just like this one. These meals are coming directly from local businesses and local farms, and it can be shipped to your door anywhere in the country.
Beyond delivering fresh food, the Farm Bus is also spreading the word about supporting local farmers.
The main objective is to help sustain and maintain a local economy.
The Farm Bus goes out every weekend, and you can follow their next move on social media. We've shared that info on our Facebook and Twitter accounts. For VCU InSight, I'm Brianna Ray Turner.
Still to come, a cup of joe from this campus coffee cart will cost you $0 in one conversation. We'll be right back. Thanks to the effort of a VCU alumni and community leaders, Richmond now has a Human Rights Commission. Here's InSight's Nia Tariq.
I'm here with Rakia Taylor, Interim Chair of the Human Rights Commission. Rakia, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's get started. So tell me about how, I know back in high school, you participated on the Human Rights Commission in your hometown. So would you like to tell us about that?
Yes, absolutely. So I attended Warwick High School in Newport News, Virginia, and while at Warwick, I had the opportunity to serve on the Human Rights Commission in Newport News. from my sophomore year of high school to my senior year of high school. And so when I came to Richmond, Virginia to attend Virginia Commonwealth University, naturally I wanted to join the Human Rights Commission to be able to serve Richmond in the same capacity that I was able to serve Newport News. And during my freshman year, I realized that there was not a Human Rights Commission. And so my sophomore year, I met Councilwoman Ellen Robertson. And after having a few conversations with her, we got rolling with setting a task force to establish a Human Rights Commission here in Richmond.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the process, like how exactly there was a task force and now you've become a commission. So kind of introduce us to how that process went.
So it was an extremely long process, about a 2.5-year process. So like I stated before, after meeting with Councilwoman Robertson a few times, we had a conversation. Her and Councilman Agalesto put in an ordinance to establish a task force. The task force consisted of 5 members, and over a year we did extensive research on human rights commissions across the state of Virginia, other human rights commissions across the state of the country, and really our task was to identify if there was a need for Richmond to have one, and if there was a need, what would the scope of a Human Rights Commission look like for Richmond, Virginia. And so during our research, we also had the opportunity to release a public survey and have 2 citywide forums, which we think were very vital to our research, because not only were we able to receive information to report back to council, but we were also able to educate the community on what a Human Rights Commission is, what we were hoping to do as a task force.
So tell us here at VCU InSight what exactly a Human Rights Commission is and what you do.
So a Human Rights Commission essentially is a body that assists citizens in the community if they feel as though their human rights have been violated according to Virginia State Human Rights Code. But it looks like many different things in certain areas. And so here in Richmond, you can expect to see, we recommended to council that a Human Rights Commission in Richmond should be an investigative body, a resource broker, and also a body that educates the community.
Okay, so what are some of the things that the commission, I know it's a relatively new body, but tell us some of the things that you are planning to do for the community or have in the works.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. We are very new. We've only had 2 meetings since the beginning of 2019. We have 13 members, 2 youth members that I'm very excited about. So right now we are just in the beginning phases of setting our foundation. And so hopefully as we set that foundation, we can be a little bit more explicit as far as what the community can expect. And if anyone wants to reach out to find out more information about what we're doing or our meetings, you can always contact the city clerk's office.
And you mentioned you have youth members. So what is the significance of having youth members on the commission in Richmond?
Oh, it is so important. As I stated before, that's where I got my excitement about serving my community at this capacity. I got to serve as a youth member on the Newport News Human Rights Commission. And so while serving on the task force, that was something that I was very passionate about making sure Richmond had, was making sure that youth here in Richmond, specifically high school students and Richmond public school system, would have the same opportunity to serve their community at that capacity. And I mean, they bring just such a fresh breath of air to the commission, and I'm very excited to see all of the amazing things that they'll do.
And so along the lines of any grievances that people have or anything like that, other than contacting the city clerk's office, what do you think that the process would be for people to contact the commission specifically if they have any complaints?
So right now, currently, the city clerk's office would be the best way to contact.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So I've been speaking with Rakia Taylor, interim chair of the Human Rights Commission. We've shared some information about the commission on our social media channels. Just search for VCU InSight on Facebook or Twitter. Rakia, thank you again for being here.
And thank you for having me.
A coffee cart on the VCU campus is handing out free cups of joe. The catch? It'll cost you one conversation with a stranger. InSight's Madison Bambini has the story.
Hot coffee, connections, and a new perspective on recovery. John Fryer is teaming up with Rams in Recovery to provide an outlet for people recovering from alcohol abuse. Together, they started the free hot coffee bike where everyone can enjoy a custom cup of joe in exchange for a conversation.
We make individual cups of coffee, and we do it in the pour-over method, which takes about 3 to 5 minutes to make a cup of coffee, and then we serve it in cups that you can't take away. So it creates about a 10-minute window for people to hang out.
Rams in Recovery provides a safe and sober place for anyone to hang out.
So it's an opportunity to spread the message of what Rams in Recovery is about, but really it's about creating space for conversation.
The free hot coffee bike has teamed up with Lamplighter to create a custom recovery roast. Each year, the Rams will go to a tasting event to choose the blend that they will use for their next roast. Carter Bain works with Rams in Recovery.
My favorite part is to bring recovery into light, and a lot of people face stigma in recovery and they're not allowed to tell their bosses or kind of stuff like that, so it brings it out from the basement and brings it into the open, and that's why I really love the coffee bike.
The team pedals out once a week and they usually stick to the areas around campus. For VCU InSight, I'm Madison Bambini.
In just a few hours, the Rams will make their first move in the big dance. VCU enters the NCAA tournament as an 8th seed and will play against 9th-seeded University of Central Florida at 9:40 tonight. The Rams are returning to the tournament after missing it last year. Tonight's game is in Columbia, South Carolina. And for a few games this year, the Flying Squirrels will transform into Los Adia Voladores. The temporary name change will only happen for the Squirrels' 11 Friday home games this season. It's all part of a minor league baseball's Fun Cup, which celebrates the league's many Latino fans. The game will feature special food items and Latin music.
That sounds like fun. We might have to check that out.
Yeah, I'm interested in their uniforms for the Friday home games. Yeah. And that does it for this edition of VCU's InSight.
You can see any of our stories from tonight's newscast by following us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Let us know about any stories you'd like to see on our show.
And you can also find the full show on our YouTube page. Just search VCU InSight. Thanks for watching. I'm Jacob Sexton.
And I'm Erica Huckabee. We'll see you next time.